Welcome everybody. I am live streaming again today to share a little bit of SEO talk. SEO talk is, hey Barefoot, thanks for the love. We're gonna get down to, I'm having all kinds of issues. I'm trying to do Meerkat and Periscope, and Meerkat just wants to keep falling on its face. All right. Hey Giant Mike, how are you today? Okay, so as the title of this video said, SEO Talk today discussed the science of social sharing. Now, I should say that normally I would be live broadcasting this. In other words, I would be participating in SEO Talk at the time that it's live on Twitter, but due to the fact that I'm traveling, I'm not in my own space, I was actually still in the car when the chat first got started, what I'm going to do is just kind of really quickly recap for you guys what happened on SEO Talk today. So, like I said, the topic today was the science of social sharing. They particularly wanted to spend some time talking about how social and SEO affect one another, how social sharing impacts search, how search and all that content affect one another. So just so you know, SEO Talk is really cool because SEO Talk is actually hosted by a couple of guys out of India. So this is one of these chats that is definitely international. They're doing the chat of an evening in India, and those of us in the US are joining it usually at 10 o'clock Central Time here in the US. So it's an interesting mix of people. I'm going to scroll through the feed real quick just to find the first question. Okay, the first question, and I didn't quite join this when they put out the first question, so first of all, I'm just going to read through until I got caught up to where I was in the stream when I had a chance to actually join the chat live in progress. The first question was, how important is social sharing for brands? Pretty wide open question as far as, you know, topics go, but there are a lot of things that are important about social sharing. There is advocacy, there's influencer outreach, there's relationship building and trust building and getting people to know your brand. It's brand identity, it's brand discovery, it's as well as it's social signals that lead to, hey, thanks for the likes and love on Meerkat. I see you guys. Anyway, the reasons for social shares is huge and impacts several aspects of your business, whether it's customer service, whether it's flat out marketing, advertising, brand awareness. So social shares are really important. I'm looking, my feed is bouncing around on me. I apologize. I'm trying to talk and get back to where I was when I read that question, because I also wanted to share with you some of the answers from some of the participants to that first question. Okay, here we go. So, Rytech LLC, which is a regular on SEO Talk and quickly becoming a good friend of mine, I actually submitted a guest post for them not too long ago about local ranking and SEO, but that's a whole nother topic. Rytech LLC depends on who is social sharing on your behalf. If it's positive sharing, it's critical. You reach more people, you engage potential customers. Deepak Paul says, in the current scenario, social sharing is very important because it spreads your message to audiences easily. Agent Palmer says, social sharing is important, but you need to be doing it for the right reasons. Do it to enrich, not to sell. Absolutely right. Yes, you need to be there, but you need to be doing it in a way that adds value to your customers. Don't just spam, 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 sell, sell, sell. Typical stuff that we talk about all the time when it comes to digital marketing. We want to make sure that we're giving and not just taking from our communities that follow us on social media. But the general consensus here is that social media shares are important, that you can't not have that as an aspect of your business. Think SEM also chimes in that it's very important, whether it's positive or negative, it has a big effect. And so you have to do your part. I mean, guess what? People are online, whether you are actively in a social channel or not. There are other people that are, and they may be sharing all kinds of stuff. Thank you, Patrick. Which channel are you watching me on? Patrick McGowan just tweeted at me, hey, like the new hair. I had to wash that gray right out of my hair. What can I say? All right, so scrolling through again, there's lots of commentary on this first. Social sharing shows brands are interested in talking to audience, which is also very important. It's not just about pushing out a brand's message. It's also about engaging with that customer base, that potential customer base. Watching on Periscope. Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate the love and attention on Periscope. Be sure and share the stream both in Periscope and on Twitter for me, please, and thank you. RightTech also. Thank you. I appreciate it. Guys, I'm going to snag these and also come up with some YouTube content as well. So I'm trying to do my best for you. Let's see. Also within the realm of is it important? RightTech also chimes in and shows that social media is a commitment by brands to engage with the larger community without the salesy message. Again, this is realizing that we don't do business in a vacuum. You know, what we do impacts others, it impacts our customers, it impacts our competitors, it impacts other related businesses and industries. So yeah, it really does require being holistic when thinking about all of this. So the host recaps and says, all right, so social sharing is important. Don't sell. Sharing is key to relationships, awareness, and engagement. Absolutely. So, scrolling down off to the next question, what parameters will you track to measure virality of content? Now, interesting choice there in the term virality, because being on social and creating content for social media isn't necessarily about viral in and of itself. We hope that it does catch on. We hope that it gets amplified, but you know, the holy grail of a viral video or a viral post isn't necessarily as important to reaching the right audience at the right time with the right message and getting them to engage and talk with us. So the next set of answers is going to kind of tilt in that direction. Deepak Powell, social sharing should be to provide answers to people's questions, not to sell them something. Once you do it right, sales will follow. Good comment there. Think SEM chimes in on question 2 with, they look at incoming links, traffics to particular URLs, shares and retweets, and other engagements. So there are several metrics that they use to measure the amplification, the virality of a particular social post. Rowan AR, Search Rook, also comments that they track views, shares, engagement, and sentiment. RightTech LLC, they use their tracking in content in order to watch other individuals, companies, and uniques posts and shares of their content. They particularly watch that second level of amplification. Let's see. Rohan Rande says quantitative would be viral reach, qualitative would be the amount of positive buzz created. So it's, for some of us, it's a little bit of a soft topic. 123 Reg for register says views, engagement, shares, link clicks are all great ways to measure engagement. Let's see. Reach, likes, comments, shares, again, more of the things. Agent Palmer jumps in at this point in the conversation and adds, don't aim for viral. I don't think I've ever gone viral, but I also don't think that's what you should be looking for. And he's right with that. That the goal in and of itself is not for a particular piece of content to go viral. The goal should be to engage people, to drive people to your website, there are other goals that are more pertinent to your post than, is this one going to be the one that goes viral? I chimed in at this point and said, you need to track how your content ripples beyond the retweet and the share. Who shared it? How big is your second degree audience? Again, that to me is more about the viral nature of a particular piece of content. How does it propagate beyond your original social share? Now, granted, for your particular audience, your particular community that's gathered around your brand, yes, you want to be tracking who retweeted, who liked, who clicks through, all that kind of stuff. But take a step further back and look at those retweets. Who was it that retweeted? How big of an audience did they have? Are they, an appropriate brand advocate? Are you already in a relationship with that person? Do you need to develop a relationship with that person? So several things to consider as far as what you're measuring and why you're measuring it. Think SEM asks Agent Palmer along these lines, is what you're posting contagious? That's how you go viral. And RightTech reminds people you can't promise viral to your clients either. It's got to be a little bit smarter than that. And again, TweetDeck is kind of truncating the feed here. Yeah, I'm traveling today. Thanks, Patrick. For those of you that are like, this is not Michelle's normal space. No, this is not my home office. I am actually out of Austin, and I am in Dallas, Texas today, getting ready for some client presentations. So yeah, I'm kind of making use of the hotel Wi-Fi while I'm scrolling back through the feed to get you some more good answers to how do you measure the virality or the propagation of a particular social post. Let's see. Agent Palmer says that he keeps an eye on traffic, organic and social. His favorite number is just overall page, overall visits per day to a particular page that he shared. I included it. It's not about going viral as much as it's about getting amplified beyond your first degree of influence. Again, this is talking about, okay, who shared, why did they share, how big of a potential audience did they share to, what is that second degree of reach? I also continued, I would recommend building in a specific tag on your social share buttons that links and a different link tag for the shares that your community manager makes in your outgoing posts. So to explain that a little bit, when you're trying to determine where traffic came from, there is a way to differentiate the link that you shared as your brand on your branded channels and the links that other people visiting your page may share. For example, let's say that Authority Labs tweets out a link to an article on their blog. People visit that blog post via Twitter or Facebook or Google+, but then rather than retweeting the original post that got them there, since they're already on the page, they don't have to back up to the social channel they were in. They might decide instead to just click the share button right there and create a whole new share. The best idea that I've seen so far is for those share buttons that not only should that share button generate a link, but it should share a tagged link that is different from the links that your community manager is sharing. So although that traffic may have come in on, say, a tweet that was tagged by the community manager for the specific campaign that that blog post pertained to, when the visitor is done reading and they click the tweet button on the post, that link should be tagged differently as this is a user-generated link rather than a community manager-generated link. that should help you see, okay, here's the traffic coming into the blog. Here's the amount of social shares the blog got from users visiting the post rather than the community manager visiting the post. So that's one of the things you need to consider when you're looking at, okay, what was the virality of that post? How much traffic was driven by the community manager? How much traffic was driven by the community generating links back to your traffic? So that was really the long way to explain that tweet. For the recap to question 2, we want to measure impressions, comments, shares, traffics, visits per day, and reach beyond the first degree. Moving on to question 3. Is fear of missing out a reality for brands, or should they stick to proven platforms? Interesting topic, especially for those of you on Periscope and Meerkat, because obviously Periscope and Meerkat are emerging platforms. Is there this issue of a fear of missing out on the parts of brands by, are they going to miss out on something by not getting in early? When do you step away from an established channel to really grab hold of, a new emerging channel? Okay, let's look at what the SEOTalk group says about this. And of course, I was the first to chime in. I said, can I say yes and no? For some brands, there is a fear of missing out, but not all. Just like we tell our clients with every other social media channel, and that includes Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, you have to know your audience fairly well. You need to know what channels they're already on. You can't ignore your good core social media channels. Don't let one of your important, really good, solid traffic driving channels go because you want to test the new shiny thing. You may wind up, cannibalizing reach and the ability to do business because you're too focused on the new and shiny. Agent Palmer laughs and says, I don't know. Do you feel lucky, brand? Well, do ya? In other words, yeah, there is an element of fear of missing out. If you don't at least give the new platforms a shot and test them, you could be missing out on something. I mean, we found out fairly quickly with social chat and with several of the other Twitter chats that we're doing. This is why I'm doing Periscope and Meerkat for SEOTalk. We're finding that although all of these Twitter chats have a really great core audience that's on Twitter, we're finding that new people are discovering us by these new channels. So we're thinking, how can we serve more than one audience by taking the extra time and effort to not only participate in the Twitter chat, but also share it as video content. So yeah, I mean, it's worth it to test, but you don't test it at the expense of your important audiences, your core audiences, the audiences and the channels that support you day in, day out. Let's see. Make sure that you have a solid core on the platforms that are proven value, and then test the shiny new objects. That's what I had posted in the chat at the time. Think SEM comments. For some brands that works. For most, I'd say stick with what works. Don't chase your tail just because there's something new and shiny out there. Let's see. I'm looking for Rytech also chimes in and says, shouldn't brands be more focused on setting trends than missing the current ones? Yes. No. I commented further on down that how do you know what trends to set if you're not at least keeping up with the current ones? So it's kind of a catch-22. You need to be able to give your community team a little bit of margin when it comes to what channels they're spending time on, how much time they have to spend on this, that, and whatever, because without a little bit of margin, your team doesn't have the ability to test something new when it comes along. And therefore, you could miss out on a new pocket of audience. You could miss out on reaching an audience that's there, that's willing to hear what you have to say, but you didn't give it the time because your community managers are already slammed with trying to keep up with Facebook and Twitter. Something to consider when it comes to assigning both personnel and resources to keep up with everything in your community. Okay, question 4. Should brands leverage the power of influencer marketing? I love the way they asked this because, well, yes, they should. What's more important is talking about why influencer marketing is important. And let's get the terminology correct. Yes, it's marketing, but no, it's more like outreach. So, first of all, I said, holy social reach, Batman, yes! Get involved with influencer marketing. Leverage it at every chance you get. But the mindset should be more along the lines of outreach than marketing when it comes to influencers. We're asking influencers to do something more than make a purchase. We're hoping that they're going to attach their name, their influence, the community that they've built around themselves to what we're doing, to our brand. So there's actually a bigger ask when it comes to dealing with influencers and what it is we hope that they're going to do for us and our brand. So it's not quite marketing, but yes it is, but actually it's outreach. So what I said was we need to make it more about the partnership than the marketing. Think SEM also chimes in and says, brands leverage it without even trying. If you're a good brand, sometimes you get promoted for free. If you're doing things that are really community-centric rather than brand-centric, you're a lot more likely to get picked up by other members of the community, and particularly influential members of the community. I went on a little further. I said, I rarely ask an influencer for anything. Rather, I engage them and offer them to help them. Thank you, Patrick, for the tips. I'm just trying to get the running commentary out. I definitely will check and see what I can do to get this moving a little bit more smoothly next time. But on with the commentary here. One of the things I threw in here is that influencers have to get more out of it than the usual stuff on this deal. A brand trying to engage an influencer in order to leverage their community, get them to kind of chime in and engage with and endorse a brand, means that you've got to add value not only for your own community but for that influencer's community. You have to provide them with value in order to get them to share something about you and what you do and why you're important to the community that they've built around themselves. Brandon says, create those advocates with helpfulness, great content, and great user experiences. Our host chimes in and says, someone once said that Twitter should have a sponsored button when influencers are sharing something that they're paid for. Well, now you get off into something that really is a bit different from just your normal influencer marketing or influencer outreach when we're talking about a paid endorsement. And yes, I really feel like for that case that transparency and, clarity are important. That if you're getting paid as an endorsement, and it's quite obvious with people that, sports celebrities that are endorsing Nike and I'm sorry, Nike's the one that comes to mind. There's a whole bunch of them, but those are paid endorsements. We all know they're paid endorsements. It's obvious that they're paid endorsements. And we know that paid endorsements go on all over the place, but it is important to make sure that our communities know that, oh, that person is a paid endorser of our product. Question 6. And this was the last question for this chat. Is there any proven success methodology? What do you advise brands? I chimed in really quick and said, you know what, I wish there were one proven methodology, but to be honest, each brand and each community are different. What works for one won't work for all. as much as methodology does make the process, the investment, all of the time spent, it does make it run smoother. What works for one brand won't necessarily work for another brand. And even a related brand, the communities are different. So I love methodology, but it's not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. Agent Palmer tended to agree with me on that one and said that there's no proven success track. Everything is changing. Your audience changes. You change. Find that sweet spot and own it. Honestly, the one bit of quote-unquote methodology I can tell you is take time, set aside the resources in order to test and learn. That's really the one thing that does apply to just about everybody, is that you always need to test. You always need to learn something new. You don't think that your audience is going to remain static. They're not. There is turnover. There is, there are all kinds of things happening. Social media is dynamic. It's not static, which means that it changes. Your community changes. Your needs as a business change. And all of that means that the one thing you've got to expect is that you're going to be constantly testing, learning, retesting, relearning, shifting, making sure that things work in a way that works for both you and your community. That is kind of the highlights. And I know that this was a really quick recap of SEO Talk. Next week, I will be back in my own spaces, not on the road, not trying to broadcast from a hotel room. I will be ready to be online, live, in the moment, to share SEO Talk with you as it's happening. But I want to make sure that you guys got a taste for the really cool people that are a part of this chat, and the interesting topics and aspects that they talk about as far as how search marketing and search engine optimization dovetail and join up with the rest of digital marketing. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch along and give me your love and all that kind of good stuff, and I'll